difficulties of SpaceX. In this presentation, we'll explore the introduction and comparison of SpaceX with other past companies and technologies, and we'll also see the technical advancements of the very first rocket of SpaceX, which was the Falcon 9 rocket, and then we'll see the technical advancements of Falcon Heavy rocket, which is a successor of Falcon 9 rocket, and we'll see SpaceX Mars travel with Starhopper, and then we'll see the future plans of SpaceX. So to start off, on the top right corner, everyone knows this person. This is the co-founder and CEO of SpaceX. His name is Elon Musk. But everything, I will say that it started from PayPal. So Elon Musk was the creator of PayPal. At that time, PayPal was one of the only applications which had the option of online payment and money transfer. In 2002, Elon Musk sold PayPal, and Elon Musk used that amount to build SpaceX. And later on, SpaceX became the first private company to lead the space race, as they had something new to offer, which was better than the 90s rocket technology. Other than that, USA had its own company now. So earlier than SpaceX, USA had to be dependent on Russia for all their space. If we compare the cost, earlier it used to cost $200 million, which is near about 20 crore, to make a single space trip. Like USA, if they have to send any satellite or anything, they have to spend $200 million on it. But now SpaceX has changed it. So 57 million, which is 5.7 crore dollars, is the cost of the rocket, which is built by SpaceX, which uses 200,000, or which is $2 lakh of fuel. But the main thing is that the rockets are able to come back and they're able to land it. So these rockets can be refurbished and then they can be used again. So earlier the cost was 54,500 per kilogram, but now the cost has come down to 2,700, 200 per kilogram itself. This is a very big change in cost. Using this, a lot of small scale businesses are able to send their satellites and they're able to do whatever things were not possible earlier on. Earlier there was this engine. This is the legendary engine RD-180. This was made by Russia, but now SpaceX uses Merlin engines. So to tell about these engines, first I'll tell about thrust. Like, thrust is the force which is exerted by the engine on the ground, using which the rocket flies off. So the thrust of Merlin engines is 914 newtons, but the thrust of Russian engine is 4150 newtons, which roughly makes 4 Merlin engines equal to one RD 180 engine. So this is a very big difference, but SpaceX use it for their benefit. Like, they use more engines, and this did increase the complexity, but the difference was that earlier, using just one engine, no rocket was able to land, but using 4 different engines, SpaceX controlled the power output and they were able to work the landing part of that rocket itself. So talking about the landing part, I'll introduce this Falcon 9 rocket. This is one of the best achievements of human till date in terms of rocket and all, because this Falcon 9 rocket was the very first rocket in history to pass the safety measures to carry load to space, and it also had the capabilities to return back and land on the legs itself. Though this was like the first 3 flights of this rocket were a complete failure. It went 5 meters into the air and then it blasted off. But the fourth flight was very successful. It was able to fly as well and land on the very specific spot as well. So this rocket is of 70 meters in height, which contains of two stages and a payload capsule on the top. So to explain about these stages, like the first stage is like the rocket which we can see on the right side. The bottom half of this rocket is the first stage. So this first stage is used by the rocket to take the load payload out into the space. So the most of the power fuel is stored in this stage. And then the second stage is used for these satellites or whatever payload is there to take it further into the space and place it accordingly. And this rocket weighs around 500 tons, which is 5 lakh kilograms. So it is lighter than most of the other rockets, which helps in better efficiency, fuel efficiency and all. So the payload capacity of this rocket is 22,800 kilograms, so which is almost same as that of other rockets, even though this rocket is very light than the other rockets. And this rocket uses kerosene, rocket grade kerosene, which is known as RP1. And this kerosene runs 9 engines on this Falcon 9 rocket. So the 9 is taken from this 9 engine. But these 9 engines create a very big problem, which is of vibration. So Falcon 9 cannot be built with any of the conventional methods. So SpaceX introduced lithium alongside with aluminum. So it was called aluminum lithium alloy, which was used for the body parts because at that time it provided best but strength to weight ratio. So this was the first material which SpaceX built and which was able to handle the vibrations. And so there was a problem with aluminum earlier as well. Aluminium evaporates fuel. So aluminium has very small openings which evaporates fuel. So earlier we used foam which appeared orange. Like if we remember the spaceship in which Kalpana Chawla went to the space, there was a big orange tank on that. So that orange was the foam which was covered around that so that the fuel does not get evaporated. But that increased the weight, so to get rid of that problem, we use is that we refuel the rocket till the very last second, but this makes the rocket very much unusable for humans because it increases the risk of blast. And other than that, there was a very major invention by SpaceX, which was of composite carbon fiber. So SpaceX saw that the aluminum lithium body is costing a lot. So SpaceX used composite carbon fiber to design internal parts for cheap cost. So the problem with the carbon fiber was that it cannot absorb a lot of heat. So they did is that they used the carbon fiber for the internal parts, and later on they did is that while the rocket is re-entering into the Earth's atmosphere, so the rocket enters from the booster side instead of entering from the nose side. So the boosters were made from aluminum lithium alloy. So this is how they saved money. But this was a very successful plan. Though it was very complex, everyone thought that this cannot be done, but they made it possible. So SpaceX became the first to land the booster on legs itself. So I'll show the image in the coming slides. But this was not the best. Like SpaceX was not the first to land the boosters, but they were the first to land the boosters coming from the space itself. Like for just a reference, the speed of those boosters were near about 15,000 kilometers per hour. So this is a lot of speed, and they came into the orbit and then they came near the Earth and then they were able to land on the legs itself. So the legs, like everywhere they introduced new technology and they took the advantage of whatever was available. So there were no motors, no nothing to control these legs. There was just one pushing mechanism which used to push the legs out of that rocket, and then the legs use gravitational force to open up. So the legs used to open at a different speed depending upon the incline angle of that rocket. So the fourth And till date, whatever boosters are launched by SpaceX, they are able to land on these legs. So SpaceX says that landing accuracy is of 10 meters. So for a challenge, only a 50-meter wide and long launch pad was used for the rocket booster landing. SpaceX never used bigger than this size, but they were able to successfully launch on this launch pad. So this precision was achieved using these two things. On the left, we have this pod. Like the pod is a very small kind of, we can say, booster. So it uses cold gas to give a small spray of nitrogen gas to which helps in maneuvering the booster itself or maneuvering the rocket itself. And on the right, we have these grid fins. So the grid fins are like the wings of a bird. So they were inspired by the birds, that how birds can change their direction and path. So this is the function of grid fins. And proceeding further to the successor of Falcon 9 rocket, we have this Falcon Heavy rocket. So this was the very first rocket in the history to carry a roadster car to space and has the capabilities to fly till Mars with the capabilities to land back on land itself. So it was very successful with its first flight. So the height of this rocket is same as the Falcon 9 rocket, which is 70 meters. But this contains an extra stage, like the boosters which we see on the left and the right. They provided extra power to the Falcon Heavy rocket so that it can generate the thrust to leave the Earth's atmosphere. So it weighs nearly about 1400 tons, which is about 14 lakh kilograms. It is considered to a very heavy rocket. It has the payload capacity of 63,800 kilograms. It is more than any other functional rocket, and it uses the same rocket grade kerosene, but the difference is that it is made up of 27 different engines running simultaneously. So this clubbing all 27 engines together and then saving the outer body of the rocket from the vibration and the sound created by those engines was a very big task. So SpaceX invented a better aluminum lithium alloy body, which provided better strength to body ratio. Three Falcon 9 rockets together with 27 engines make the Falcon Heavy, second most heaviest rocket after the Saturn V. So if you have any interest in space exploration and anything, you must be aware of this Saturn V rocket. So this is the rocket which took astronauts to the moon. So Falcon Heavy rocket is just after that rocket in terms of weight and all. So I'll tell you a very interesting fact about that Apollo mission as well during these slides. So in the very first mission, Falcon Heavy rocket didn't receive any support from anywhere else. So what Elon Musk did is that he also has his own company of automobiles called Tesla. So he shipped a Tesla car into the orbit, which had the message on its dashboard said, "Don't panic." So I'll tell more about that image as well. So this was like Falcon Heavy rocket was a very revolutionary thing in the rocket world because it was able to carry more weight. So by weight, they can put in more fuel, which can make the rocket go even long distance. So it is said that this rocket can be used to ship things to Mars as well because of all the advancements and all. So the main successor, or we can say the cost saving of the Falcon Heavy rocket, came in from this point, like the two boosters which were used to ship the load into the space. They came back and they were able to land successfully in their very first flight, as we can see on the left. So this image is very big achievement of Earth, we can say, of humanity, because we were able to make the boosters land. Though they appear to be very small, but they are at least of 40 meters in height. And on the right, we can see how the 27 engines are clubbed together for the Falcon Heavy rocket. This on the left is the Tesla Roadster in space. So there was a bot sitting on the seat, and what message could he see? So there was a message of don't panic for that bot, and we can see the planet Earth. So this Roadster is still out in the space. Try finding it if you have a very good camera. And on the right, we can see that this is the size comparison of that Falcon Heavy rocket. As I said that, I'll tell you something very interesting about the first moon landing. So on the extreme left, we have Neil Armstrong. Everyone knows him. He was the first one to step on moon. And on the right, we have Buzz Aldrin, extreme right. So he was the second person. He landed on moon after 19 minutes of Neil Armstrong. But the person in the middle, Michael Collins, he spent 27 hours alone in the command module. The command module was waiting for these astronauts to come back from the moon so that they can travel back to the Earth. So he was alone for 27 hours in that command module, which orbited 14 times around the moon. And in every orbit for 47 minutes, Simon Collins was completely disconnected from Earth. So till date, it is said that Michael Collins was the first person who was completely disconnected from Earth, like in complete solitude. If anything could have happened to him in those 47 minutes, there was no way for humanity to find what actually happened and where did he went. And if anything could have happened to him, then Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin could not have came back. So proceeding further with the SpaceX. So this is a very weird looking ship, I know. So this is called the Starhopper spaceship, and this is the very first ship in the history which will be designed to carry payload and crew and has the capabilities to fly till Mars and then land on Mars and then fly back to Earth and then land on Earth itself. It was very successful in its flights till date, and earlier the height of the Starhopper was 39 meters, but as that 39-meter was successful, so the SpaceX retired it, and now in the next prototype the height will be of 50 meters. So it contains no stages. This is the whole rocket intact, and it weighs approximately 1400 tons, which is 14 lakh kilograms. So Elon Musk says that the weight will be reduced in future because they are working on new materials. I'll come back to that in future. So the payload capacity of Starhopper is of more than 10,000 kilograms, which is way more than any other functional spaceship. It uses liquid methane and liquid oxygen as a fuel for 6 heavy-duty engines. So the engines were completely designed. So they were called the Raptor engines. I'll tell more about that. So it is the engines were new in this spaceship because this is a very heavy spaceship and it was designed to travel to Mars. So the engines had to be so much powerful that they can take it to Mars, because the trip to Mars will be of near about 6 to 7 months one side. And once we'll reach Mars, the main problem starts there, because we will be traveling at the speed of 21,000 kilometers per hour while we reach the Mars atmosphere. So this is more than the limitations of aluminum and carbon fiber, which SpaceX used conventionally. So SpaceX is developing self-engineered stainless steel alloy. This is the reason why this spaceship looks silver, because this is made up of stainless steel. And the 6 engines on the Starhopper will be configured in such a way that 3 of them will work according to the Earth's atmosphere and the other 3 will work according to the vacuum conditions of space, because the major portion of the Starhopper will be spent on space. So these engines will be very much the turning point. The second biggest challenge is of heat shield. Like while entering the atmosphere, the old heat shield was named Avcoat, which had novolac resin, which cannot be reused. Like while entering the atmosphere, a lot of heat is generated on whatever part is touching, on whatever part is inclining towards the land. So we used Avcoat, which is like a block of foam, which is filled of novolac resin. It is like a liquid which evaporates when it burns. So when the space shuttle, if you remember the spaceship in which Kalpana Chawla went into the space, so there was something black on the bottom of that. So that was the heat shield, the actual Avlok. So while returning back to the Earth, so that black foam blocks are completely burned, but this is not an option for SpaceX because it has to land on Mars and then land on Earth back again. So SpaceX used the technology in which they filled methane between the inner and the outer layer. So there were two layers. In between that those layers, methane will be filled, and that methane will evaporate as it gets heated. So there will be small pores on the outer layer. So as due to the heat, the methane will evaporate, methane will burn, it will get evaporated into the atmosphere of whether it is Mars or whether it is Earth. So this is the very same phenomena which is used by humans for heat dissipation. And the other challenge for SpaceX is that the engine, once we'll reach Mars, will be out of fuel. So they had to develop engines so that they can refuel. They can be refueled on Mars itself because they have to make 7 month back journey as well. So SpaceX developed engines that can be refueled on Mars. So by refueling, I mean that there is abundance of methane on Mars. So SpaceX designed engines which are powerful enough and which use methane so that these Raptor engines can perform their round trip very successfully. So till date, the announced missions for this Star Hopper are two cargo shippings in 2020, then two cargo shippings in 2024, along with the two crew missions to Mars in 2024. Let's see what they have for us in future. So on the left, we have the first test images of Star Hopper. And on the right, we can see that this is how it landed. And on the left, this is the actual Avcot. So we can see that this is a block which contains resin, Novolac resin. And on the right, we can see that the bottom half of the spaceship is getting burned due to the atmosphere. So this is a very big challenge. So this is still a prototype by SpaceX. It is not proved whether it will work or not. So we have to see for that in future. And now proceeding further with few other missions of SpaceX, like there's a mission called Starlink. This mission will create a satellite constellation which will get constructed and in upcoming years, and it will provide high-speed internet with minimum latency to the places where towers cannot be planted. For example, peaks of mountains, aeroplanes, and ships in sea or oceans. So the plan is to send near about 12,000 small satellites to space and build a constellation, and that will provide internet to these unplanted places. And the other mission is to introduce space tourism. This is a very fun story. So there's a Japanese billionaire, Yusaku Miyazawa, which booked a seat for himself, his girlfriend, and 7 other artists around the world, which are yet to be selected. So everyone can start now. He booked these seats for a round trip of moon for 2023. So this ticket is already being sold to him, and the date is yet to be decided, but the year is decided by SpaceX. And there was a very fun contest going on, though the dates are closed now, by this Japanese billionaire. We call it Swayambar. So it had it that he had a 6 month competition between women filling application to become his girlfriend so that he can take them to moon. So a lot of men were discouraged because they also wanted to go, but he didn't decide it. He stayed forward. So the next and one of the very big missions of SpaceX is to colonize Mars. So SpaceX programs for Mars are very well planned. So we might see humans on Mars very soon because SpaceX is very much capable of it, because SpaceX has got the technologies and the brain behind everything. So we might see Mars traveling starting in upcoming years. And with that, I'll end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Very interesting, Sanchit. Something which opened our eyes to this whole huge world of space travel and space technology.
Anyone have questions to be asked?
I have one question. Will it ever be, will it ever become a commodity traveling? Space traveling will become so easy that anyone can travel, or at least people can afford. You think that happening, Sanchit, in the next 20, 30 years?
I think, sir, that will be happening way sooner than that, because nowadays people are more into adventure than saving their lives. So I think people will invest into space and all.
Thank you, Sanchit, for your wonderful presentation.